Good morning, friends. It's the 21st Sunday after, no, it's not. It's the 20th Sunday after Trinity. Serenity is the intent. A wonderful intent. And interestingly enough, although we might think this is maybe something which doesn't sort of sound very spiritual, the whole content of, starting from the collect, the whole content of this Sunday, collect, epistle and gospel, sets out a spiritual path with very clear directions, all to do with serenity. And you might think, well, why would you bother that? Can't I just get a rocking chair, perhaps? Go and look at the ocean? Yes, that's right, you can do that. But sooner or later, the rocking chair won't be available necessarily, and maybe you can't always just stay looking at the ocean forever. And what this intent is all about is to develop serenity that you can take with you. As the Crowded House said, you always take the weather with you, but that's another matter. So, unchanging and immortal God, right from the very start in the collect, we get the sense that this is a very profound thing. This is just not simply feel good. Yes, you will feel good, but it's much deeper than that. And if it's to be sustained and sustainable, the roots must always be very deep. Unchanging and immortal God, there's the deep roots. Who reignest forever serene above the water floods, not in the hurly-burly, above the water floods. Grant us to gain and hold that holy peace, which naught on earth can vex. Nice word, isn't it? Vex. Just captures the whole thing. Vexatious things, circumstances, whatever. Pair of shoes, shoelaces that break at the wrong moment. Vex that. It's just a lovely word which we think, yes, lots of things in our life don't all go that smoothly. But the picture which is painted here is we can get above that. Or, if you like to say it another way, we might be in the middle of it, but we're not affected by it. It doesn't disturb us. It doesn't draw us into a state where we feel everything is vexatious and we just get cross and irritable. We don't want that. We want the state of serenity having been achieved. We want to maintain it. And where is it? It's not in actions in the world. It's above the world's actions, even though we are in the world. So this is a very powerful message, this message of serenity. And now we want to know how to get it. Is it on sale at Bunnings, perhaps? So, we need to think now, where can we get such a thing? The first clue is in the collect, unchanging and immortal God. We must look to the laws that link the spiritual depth of the perennial wisdom with Christianity. And that's where we look all the time for sustainable messages. And in the epistle that Matt read this morning, it's the St. Peter, the epistle from St. Peter, founding, if you like, the apostle, so founding apostle. There is a list here of steps that you might go on to get to the state you want to get to. Giving all diligence, that is, you've got to work at this. You don't just think, oh gosh, that sounds terrific. One of those days, one of these days, I'm going to get that. You've got to start now. And what do you have to wait for? Nothing. You start from where you are. As in all things, little step, just a little step, starting from where you are. And then the diligence, what? The next little step. And then what about after that? Another little step. But the diligence maintains the momentum and gets you into the rhythm of the thing. First, like human nature, when you're trying to change something, always these obstacles. push against, oh no, feels, Every day you do it gets less and less and less. And then, sometimes people talk about it, if you can do it for 30 days, that sounds a bit long, make 15. Do it for 15 days, and then you think, oh, I quite like that. I don't need to be urged on, and I don't feel the pushback quite so much. So, the epistle, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge temperance, to temperance patience, to patience godliness, godliness brotherly kindness, and brotherly kindness charity or love. So these are the steps we take. These words we can apply in our own time and place. But in order to get somewhere, and in order for it to be sustainable, we have to pay attention to what these words mean. In other words, we're trying to adopt serenity, and it's a wonderful thing to go after, a wonderful thing to really sink deeply into our hearts. But we have to pay attention to these other things, which are the affairs of the world. To gain these things allows the state of serenity to be with us at all times, with the deep roots, and not to be affected by the bang crash of the world. And then St. Peter goes on to say, if these things be in you and abound, they make you neither barren nor unfruitful of what? Of Jesus Christ. Now, why is that suddenly in there? Because this is a spiritual path. We rejoice physically when we achieve it, because what our mind does is reflected in our bodies. When our mind is serene, our bodies are relaxed. When we go to sleep at night, that's the only time the body uses to repair itself physically. And when we don't have a very good sleep, the body doesn't have much time to repair itself. But it's the only time. And why is that? Well, the body can only use a certain amount of energy to do tasks. So when we're sleeping, it does all sorts of things like defrag our brains and do all sorts of stuff. And then the rest of the energy, it repairs the body. When we're in a state of serenity in our minds, it stops agitation and the body relaxes. The perfect state for the body to be in, to function at its best. So not only is this a spiritual exercise which brings very deep contentment, or serenity is the intent, but it has an immediate impact on our bodies. Marvellous. 2 for the price of 1. You don't even have to wait for specials at Bunnings to get this. We can start it any time. Then in the Gospel, Jesus tells the people who are listening a little message, and they have to unpack it. And he says, "Come unto me, all ye that labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." I'm going to rephrase this now in the light of the message I'm talking about in this small sermon. Come unto me, all you who are agitated, who are overloaded with the cares of the world, who don't know what to do with yourself. You're beside yourself and cross most of the time. Bring that heavy burden to me, and I will teach you to be deeply, deeply embedded in my thoughts and love. What will arise in your hearts is serenity, and that will make your life effortless. So we have to unpack that from what he's saying. Take my yoke upon you. In other words, take all this upon you take my teachings upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. When you're feeling very serene, you don't feel like doing much. You just rest in the moment. It doesn't mean you're not busy at some other times, but you just rest in the moment. And in that state, the love wisdom arises, and you can see what you should do next. Before then, you've got to have a list or something, or you've got to use your will to do things. We all understand that you can't do anything unless you first apply your will. First you apply your will, and then things happen. This is from the Father, Father the Creator. We think of Father the Creator giving us will, giving the power to exert our will. You say to someone, you haven't got any willpower at all. We say, they haven't got any impetus to do anything. And sometimes we feel like that. We haven't got any will to do it. We don't have a will to do it. But when we do have the will to do it and apply it, then things move. When we're in a state of serenity, the wisdom arises of what we should be doing before we then apply the will coming from the Father. And then Jesus goes on to say, those of you who operate like this, those of you who operate in this state, I'm just using modern words now, those of you who are able to have this state of serenity when you want it to be in your hearts, or maybe stay in that state all the time, or to return to that state over a busy moment or some busy times, those of you who can do that, you know then that you're almost invisible to other people. You don't make a big noise. You don't make a big, ta-da, here I am, look at me, look at me. All that goes out the window. You're just quietly within yourself. And then he just uses these illusions that you even walking, say, flax on the ground or something, your tread is so light that you wouldn't bruise it. And even if there's something sort of smouldering, you just wouldn't interfere with it in any way. It would just sort of smoulder away quietly. And it then concludes by saying, someone who operates like this, in a God-centered way, in a state of serenity, then everyone trusts this person, instinctively trusts this person. So, here we are in this extraordinary message of serenity. What's the benefit? The benefit is we just feel so much better in ourselves, physically. And then what's the spiritual benefit? The spiritual benefit is we're in the correct place, where we should be, we interact in the way we should, and we are deeply connected to the Christ within. These are powerful messages, and well worth spending time in the week thinking about it. Don't make it complicated. Just start where you are. Just start by relaxing, and start by bringing to mind it's a step process. Try this and see how you go.